Thank you so much for joining us at the Board of Registered Nursing meeting. We're happy to have you all here in lovely Monterey. My name is Donna Gerber. I'm the Vice President of the Board. I'm a public member appointed by the Speaker of the Assembly. Our President, Trandy Phillips, and a couple of other board members, unfortunately, are ill today, so that's why there's only 5 of us instead of 8. But we will now proceed with the meeting. I do want to ask, just logistically, that people turn their lovely cell phones off. And as I remind you to do that, it reminds me to do it. So I will call the meeting to order officially, and we will do the roll call to establish a quorum, beginning on my right.
Good morning. I'm Michael Jackson, faculty member appointed by the governor. Thank you for coming.
Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Woods, appointed by the governor in the advanced practice role. I'm a family nurse practitioner.
Good morning. Ann Salisbury, DCA Legal Counsel.
Hi, I'm Dr. Joe Morris. I'm the executive officer of the board.
Good morning, Betgowitz. I'm appointed by the governor, public member.
Good morning. I'm Pilar Dela Cruz Reyes-Samoian. I'm a registered nurse appointed by the governor in the nurse administrator role. And I'd like to take a moment, if I can, to introduce the young lady in the audience. Sandra, would you stand up, please? Sandra works here at the hotel, and she's doing a prereqs to nursing. And so we invited her to come, and she is here this morning. So thank you for being here.
Good job, Pilar. Okay, so now we have the item that is public comment for anything that is not on our agenda. So if you have something you want to comment on that is not on today's agenda, this is your opportunity. I don't believe I see any, so we will move on.
Well, Madam President, if
yes,
I may, excuse
please.
me, items not on the agenda. I do want to publicly first acknowledge our veterans. Seeing that Veterans Day was this week, and the board did not get a chance to publicly acknowledge them for all their hard work. So are there any veterans?
Why, thank you, Dr. Morris. I appreciate your thanks
Yeah, so
for the sacrifices that we've made, some of us traveling abroad to foreign countries to ensure democracy.
And I think we do have a person in the audience. So thank you for your years of service and serving this country. And secondly, this matter is definitely dear to my heart. I know that in this day and time throughout this country, we're faced with a lot of trials and tribulations, if you will, disasters and just things that are happening. Some of them are out of our control. And recently, we know that California has been faced with fires. So I want to take a moment of silence, if we can, to give respect to those families and loved ones that are devastated by the fires, if we can. Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Dr. Morris. We'll move right on to item 3.0, which is to review and vote on approving minutes for prior meetings. So I'll do these one at a time, just in case there are any different votes by board members on each of them. So the first one is 3.1. It's the June 13th to 14th 2018 meeting.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes
I
for
second.
June 13, 14, 2018.
We have a motion and a second. Any comment from the public? Okay, let's vote.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Betgowitz, yes.
Pilar Dela Cruz Reyes-Samoian, yes.
Okay, great. Moving on to August 15th, 2018.
I make a motion that we approve those minutes of August 15th.
Do you have a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Let's vote.
Michael Jackson abstains.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Melba Seha Beckwith, yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
Thank you. Now we have the September 12th meeting of the board. Any public comment? Seeing none?
I make a motion that we approve the September 27th minutes.
12.
Well, I better put my glasses on. So.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. To my right.
Michael Jackson abstains.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Oh, who was the second? I'm sorry. Imelda.
I'll second the motion.
So this is for September 12th. Elizabeth Woods.
Yes.
Donna Gerber abstain.
Melba Seha Beckwith. Yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes, yes. Simoleon.
Okay, thank you. The next minutes are September 27th, 2018.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any comment from the public? Seeing none.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber abstain.
Melba Seha Beckwith, yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
Okay. And finally, for the minutes, we have October 10th, 2018.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Seeing none.
Michael Jackson votes yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Melba Seha Beckwith, yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
Excellent. Well, that was exciting, I know, for the audience. Okay, moving right along to 4.0. This is where any board member can report on activities that they want to share with the public. Pilar?
Yes, I had the honor of speaking to the California Student Nurses Association. They met in Visalia, and they asked me to speak on how to keep their license out of trouble with the BRN. So I went down and presented information to them, which was really, it was fun and enjoyable.
That's great. You shared the secrets. Okay. Any other board member want to comment on activities? Okay. Moving right along, we have 5.0 board and department activities and a report from our executive officer.
Thank you, Madam President. I will begin my report with 5.1, just organizational updates. And you can follow along with me with my report if you received a copy. You can receive it offline, or there should be some additional copies in the back of the room there. So 5.1, organizational updates. The board continues to review its internal business process. Madam President, the board did submit a budget change proposal requesting additional staff to meet the board's operational needs, and hopefully within maybe a month or so, we should know the outcome of the request for additional staff to meet the board's needs. The board continues to increase its outreach efforts, not only in the academic setting, but also bridging the gaps with its clinical partners. The outreach efforts that included presentations to pre-licensure nursing programs regarding the licensing process has now been expanded to include the enforcement unit. And recently, the licensing and enforcement chiefs presented at the 2018 Deans and Directors meeting overview of the enforcement and educational process, and it was well received. And we do anticipate that the enforcement chiefs will continue to expand their scope of knowledge as it relates to, will continue to expand the services to the hospitals and also the clinical partners regarding the nuts and bolts of enforcement. During the month of September and early October, the EO worked closely with Health Impact Dr. Jordan Spetz and several stakeholders to host the 7 regional summits throughout the state of California. The summits included input from clinical practice, academia, legislative branches, and other stakeholders across the state. The purpose of the summits were to bring creative minds together to discuss the clinical capacity displacement matters that are taking place within California, with the hopes of offering potential solutions. Overall, we feel that these summits were a success. The data of the summits is currently being compiled, and a report will be drafted by Health Impact and the Planning Committee. The data will be used to determine the next steps in solving the clinical capacity issue within the state of California. For more information regarding the final summit report, I encourage you to log on to Health Impact's website, which is healthimpact.org. You can also retrieve the data from the regional summits. Moving on, the BRNEO, in collaboration with various leaders from the COADN and the CACN, CSUs, and California Chancellor's Community College offices, met to discuss a pilot dual enrollment process. The purpose of the pilot process is to allow students enrolled in a pre-licensure associate degree program to be dually enrolled into the CSU nursing degree programs, with the aim of completing their Bachelor's of Science degree within 1 year or less. The pilot will include the following nursing programs: Riverside Community College, Cal State University San Bernardino, and Cal State University Fullerton. The pilot is scheduled to start fall 2019. If proven successful, the pilot will encourage all nursing programs, if not already, to work collaboratively with each other to offer students the opportunity to be dually enrolled. For more information regarding the dual enrollment process, you can contact Riverside Community College, Cal State University San Bernardino, or Cal State Fullerton for more information. The board is also concerned with just taking inventory on how our community partners gauge how we're doing. So once again, this will make the 3rd year we have implemented this survey. We will be releasing the survey to our community partners, including those nurses, to just evaluate how we're doing. So we encourage you, once you receive the emails from our research team, to fill out the survey and provide constructive critique. We do take the results from that survey, and we use the results to improve our internal processes. Okay. Moving on to the annual school survey. Again, this annual survey is conducted annually, and once again, it should be released. No, I'm sorry, it has already been released to the deans and directors. And to my knowledge, we have maybe 1 week left. I'm sorry. Oh, the deadline is already passed. It's today. Okay, so all you deans and directors out there listening, I will be calling you, harassing you about the annual school report. We need that data in order to improve and make changes throughout the state. We need you to fill that survey out as accurate as possible so that we can use that data accordingly. Moving on to continuing education provider, the board is currently reviewing the continuing education provider approval process. The board was instructed via Senate Business Profession to conduct a cost-benefit analysis of the board's continuing education provider approval, renewal, and course evaluation process. The completed report is due to the legislator by January 1st, and within your materials is a copy of the draft report for those who are interested in reading the report. The board continues to comply with the public records request and respond within the required timeframes that are set in Government Code Section 6250. For the period of June 4, 2018 to November 5, 2018, the board has processed 56 PRAs. Moving on to technology update. This is also something I'm very excited about. As you know, the board has continued to improve in many of its processes with implementing current technology. First, we started with the cloud, and that has proven to be a great success, not only in the licensing units, but also in the enforcement unit. With that being said, we will be piloting some current technology via Tableau. Is a online software that the board is going to be implementing. And those of you familiar with Tableau knows that it is more of a it's a tool that's used to really do data management. I mean, I would like to call it Excel on steroids. It really is. It allows you to manipulate the data better, display the data better, and very user-friendly platform. So we do believe that we will be the first board to implement this tool, and with the help of the Department of Consumer Affairs and UCSF. So please be on the lookout for that within the next month or so. And I guarantee you, if it's successful, the way the data and the reports are presented will make it more user-friendly for our consumers. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about the cloud technology. I presented this technology and how the board has implemented it in several reports, but I do want to take the opportunity to say that because of the use of the cloud, I believe it has also contributed to our spike in our NCLEX passing rates. The students we know are testing faster, a lot faster than they probably ever have in the history. And it was brought to my attention by Katie Doherty, our NCLEX guru within the board. And she's acknowledged how fast the students are testing and how well our NCLEX pass rates are. The highest they ever been in the history of the board.
And the highest in the country.
Yeah, and again, they yeah, you can clap for that. Yeah, so I think it's been a collaborative effort, not only from the deans and directors, the academicians, the clinical partners, us working all together, but also the board improving its internal process as well. So it truly does take a village. Moving on, the budget. On October 15, 2018, the board's fee increase became effective. The application fees and the regulations took effect October 25th, 2018, and a notice and updated fee schedule has been published on the front of the board's website. Senate Bill 1480 approval was approved by the governor on September 19, 2018, and will enact changes on January 1st, 2019. This bill amends the non-refundable fee paid to registered nurses for their evaluation of his or her qualifications to use the title public health nurse. As you know, that there was some concern about the fees that public health nurses paid, but there is good news. The fees that were paid requires the board to refund the difference to those applicants. So those who paid $500 will be refunded $200, basically. If they paid between April 5th, 2018 to December 31st, 2018. The board staff project that the refund costs to the board will be approximately $213,000. And we will work with the Department of Consumer Affairs to make sure that that process is smoothly and those nurses get refunded. Also listed in my report is the current budget. The board staff continue to monitor the budget to ensure that we are financially healthy and we are operating within our the budget provided to ensure that we are operating, fiscally. I do want to draw to your attention the fund condition, which is on page 7. We continue to, again, make sure that we are spending within the the allotted budget that we provided to provide it. We do have present the Department of Consumer Affairs Budget Office. They're going to go more into the budget. But before we do that, Madam President, we do have also a list of in my report on page 5 and 6, our staff that we recently hired and also our promotions there for your review. That completes my report.
Great, thank you, Dr. Morris. Any comments or questions from board members? Any comments from the public? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. BJ Bartleson from the California Hospital Association, and I would just like to applaud and thank the board and Dr. Morris for the outstanding work of the regional summits to bring education, academia, clinical partners together. It was a fabulous experience, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to look at how we can continue to collaborate and work together as partners. And with that, I would like to ask, what's next steps? Wonderful recommendations came out of those summits. What do we do with that work?
Thank you for the question. Well, as the data is being compiled, and hopefully the report will be released within a matter of weeks, and I think the data was going to suggest that there are some emerging themes that are coming out of the report that really the planning committee should look at. Those themes, take those recommendations to the board subcommittee and the subcommittees. For example, the new WAC committee, as you're all aware of. Once the new WAC gets a hold of that data, then they will begin to dialogue about those next steps and then present it to the board, whatever those recommendations may be.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, we will move on to 6.0, which is the report of the Administrative Committee, and I will give this report. So beginning with 6.1, are we on? I'll go closer. Beginning with 6.1, we have the update on the budget, and DCA staff are here to talk with us about what the status is of our budget change proposal and just how the process is going to unfold time-wise between now and the end of the year. Welcome. I'll just remind board members that we adopted in May a budget change proposal recommendation from the board for 94 additional positions for the BRN. So we're just following up to find out kind of where that is more specifically. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Mark Ito. I'm your budget manager from the Department of Consumer Affairs. I'm excited to be here today to present your budget and give you the status of your budget change proposals. I will piggyback off of Dr. Morris's budget update. He did a great job presenting the budget a few minutes ago. The Budget Office, we don't have any concerns with your expenditures or the status of your fund or revenue at this time. Based on an activity report out of the new fiscal system as of November 1st, 2018, we're projecting that you'll have savings of $530,000 this year, and that assumes that all vacancies will be filled by January 1st of 2019. So we have no concerns over your expenditures at this point. Moving forward, our plan is to work closely with the board on a monthly basis to make sure that your expenditures are still in line with what we're projecting at this time. And if not, we will continue to work and address those concerns. And now from a fund perspective, we don't have any concerns with your fund at this point. Your fund balance is very healthy. You have a fee increase that is going to go into effect in 18-19. We don't have any concerns over your how much funding you have at this time, and that kind of brings me to your budget change proposals. So the department and agency are assisting and supporting the board with your proposals at this time. They've moved forward. The Department of Finance is doing an in-depth review of the board structure and your needs, which is a good thing. So it looks like everyone's on board with We're taking a real hard look at what you guys need moving forward. Dr. Morris already mentioned earlier that the results of the budget change proposals should come out really soon. Unfortunately, until January 10th, we can't talk about the budget change proposals. They're confidential until the governor's budget is released. So with that said, that is the status of your budget change proposals. Like I said, anything that we hear, we will relay to the board. Any questions we have, any questions we get from any of the control agencies, we will definitely work with you guys, work with the control agencies to make sure that your program has the best possible chance of receiving what you need.
Thank you
So
very
with that said, you know, like I mentioned earlier, we don't have any concerns with your budget at this time. We're going to continue to work closely with Dr. Morris, board staff, to make sure that you guys are spending appropriately, your revenue's being brought in, and then we will continue to work on your budget change proposals as well.
Can I just ask you, Mark, to
Yeah.
clarify that when you indicated that based on projections, we should still have about 530,000
Yeah.
by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Can you clarify what the date is of the end of the year? When you,
I'm sorry, yeah,
That's okay.
the end of the fiscal year is June 30th,
Thank you.
2019. And with that savings, that'll allow you, if you need flexibility for the board to hire additional temp health staff to deal with your workload, that 500,000 will help assist you in hiring temporary help in lieu of potentially getting your budget change proposal positions.
And if I may, for the record, if you can also tell the board members, what have we projected our reserve to be? About how many months?
Oh, your reserve, at the end of, well, if you're looking at your fund balances in your months in reserve?
Yes.
Okay, so just to kind of, in layman's terms, your months in reserve is, if you didn't bring any more revenue moving forward, is how many months your board can sustain its current operations prior to becoming insolvent. So that's what months in reserve are. So at the end of 18-19, your months in reserve, I'm showing to be about 6.2 months, but they're growing at this point. You're actually projected to bring in more revenue than you're spending. So your months in reserve moving forward are going to grow, and that's what we're projecting at this time. Once the results of your budget change proposals and any other additional funding you may receive from budget letters, executive orders during our budget building season, those will get added to your expenditures. Those won't be built in and released until after January 10th. We can take another look at your fund condition. Once the governor's budget's released, we can get a better idea how it is moving forward. But at this time, you're bringing in, I would say, significantly more money than you're spending right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So since we're bringing in more money than we're spending, this should help us with the day-to-day operations and managing the board, including recruitment and retention of our personnel, correct?
Well, this means you have more money in your fund. It's not necessarily more money in your appropriation. It's definitely a good thing to have.
We just want to
yeah.
ensure that we're able to safely provide a service to the public as well as to our licensees constituency that we serve. We want someone to answer the phone.
Absolutely.
We want someone to be there to continue to lead the organization.
Yeah. So I think that goes back to that $530,000 you're going to save this year. That's going to allow you, if you do have workload needs, that you can hire temporary help staff within
Or
your
retain
current
the ones
budget.
that we already have.
Thank you.
right.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, board members? Okay, thank you so much for coming in and clarifying some of this for us. The administrative committee of the board will be working closely with your department and DCA going forward between now and January 10th
Awesome.
on the BCP request of the board.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Thank you. And I
much.
hope to see you real soon. Hopefully after January 10th, we can speak a little more candidly about your proposals as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone from the public have any comments to make? Okay, moving on. So we have the update on SB 799, which included a requirement that the board submit a report, that a report be done by the California Research Bureau to the legislature regarding the issue of mandatory reporting. That report is due to the legislature on January 1st, 2019. Basically, it is in the internal review process right now. This is not a report that the board is doing. This is a report that is being done by this research bureau. So we just wanted to give everybody an update of where it is in the process. We don't have it yet, but when we get it, we will be talking about it.
Correct, Madam President. And I have been, myself and the staff have met via telephone conference with the reporting agency, and they are on target to ensure that the report is delivered in a timely manner. As a matter of fact, they think the report will be completed within a matter of weeks from now. And that report will be submitted directly to the legislature for review.
Great. Any questions, comments by board members? Okay, so we will move on to 6.3. This is to update the board regarding an item that was discussed a little bit earlier, which is the results of the summits and, what do we want to do moving forward relative to the clinical capacity issues. So you've heard that the final report from Health Impact on all of those summits, I believe there were 7 of them.
Correct.
I believe almost every single member of the board attended at least one of them, and I know a lot of our staff attended. I really appreciate that. I really want to appreciate the staff of the BRN and Dr. Morris for, pulling all that together. To say that it was like herding cats probably doesn't adequately describe the sort of daily, activity around the beginning discussions regarding having these summits on clinical capacity, and then ultimately the final product, which was the 7 regional conversations that took place involving almost everybody, every stakeholder involved in this discussion. So we feel very good about the conversation that went on there. I think everybody that attended, and I'm not going to pretend that there was complete agreement by everybody in the room, but at least everybody in the room was talking about it. So given that, and given the timing that the report from Health Impact is expected in the next couple weeks, something like that, and also given the legislative calendar, because what we might want to do is look at potential legislation regarding some of the recommendations, some of the subject matter coming out of the summits. So the administrative committee is suggesting that you direct the administrative committee to move forward with staff, in terms of even including the fact that we are in the process of hiring a new legislative person.
That's correct.
For the board to add to our current staff. So what I'm suggesting is a motion from the board that would direct the board and the staff to work on, with Senate BMP staff, who were also involved in watching what was going on with the summits, to just begin the conversation about potential legislation. And the reason I'm suggesting that we do it now is because when you look at the legislative calendar, we can't really wait till January, which is our next meeting, to begin that discussion process. So I would ask the board to consider this and look at a motion to direct us to begin work with staff on possible legislative solutions.
Is that your motion?
It is.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any public comment before we make a decision here? Seeing none?
Michael Jackson, yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes.
Imelda Seja Bedgood, yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
Great, thank you, that motion passes. So next, we have 6.4, which is an update and possible action on the comprehensive plan for approving or disapproving continuing education opportunities. I want to just remind everybody, and thank you, Susan Engel, for coming up. Susan has been working diligently with Dr. Morris and myself and Michael Jackson. We were the ad hoc committee, if you think way back, to kind of focus on this report, which is mandated by legislation and is another thing due to the legislature January 1st, 2019. So we have been working over this past year to put together a plan on how the board is going to do a much more comprehensive job of dealing with the CEU providers and CEU audits and all of that. So what you have in your materials is a draft document. Let me just describe process-wise the situation here. So the board has to submit this report before January 1st. Because this is our last meeting of the year, the idea is to get this draft out to everyone, which is why it's in the materials today, to receive any comments today, or to receive any follow-up comments very quickly after today, if people have them, and hopefully in writing. And then what I'm going to suggest to the board is that you direct the ad hoc committee to review the comments made on the current draft before producing a final document that will then be sent to the legislature. So that's why we wanted to get out this very lengthy document that has a whole lot in it. And we want to open it up to any questions from board members, any questions from the public. Dr. Morris and Dr. Engel are here to answer questions if we can at this point, but mostly to get your input. And to anybody who's listening to our board meeting somewhere out there in the virtual world, please, if you do have comments on the draft, get them to us in writing right away, because we have to work quickly in order to get the report ready for the January 1st deadline. With that,
Donna, will there be a deadline when comments could be received?
Yeah, I think we do need a deadline.
yeah, we do.
If I might suggest,
Please.
because of the holidays and the time period, I mean, I don't plan on working on Christmas Day and some of those times. I will suggest if we can say within 2 weeks.
Yes.
We need a short turnaround that gives us enough time to review the comments and also get them out to the board and so forth. So 2 weeks from today.
Thank you.
So can someone quickly,
December 1st.
December 1st? Is it 2 weeks from today?
November 29th?
That's right after.
Let's just make sure. We might.
You said, why did you say? So Dr. Engel, can you confirm that date,
Just look
please?
at the calendar.
Which is on a Thursday? Okay.
Okay.
Let's extend it to the 30th.
30th? Okay,
30th.
November 30th is the deadline for comments regarding this plan.
By 5 p.m., close of business day.
And who should be receiving the comments?
Dr. Engel, why don't we have the comments sent to you?
Okay.
Okay.
My email address is susan.engel@dca.ca.gov. That's susan.engle@dca.ca.gov.
Okay,
And before you,
yes.
please, folks, send constructive critique. And again, I don't want Dr. Engel to get a lot of spam mail and just mail that's uncalled for. So if you can send us constructive critique regarding the report and things that we can, correct in a timely manner, that'd be great.
Okay, so at this time, I'd like to suggest a motion which would direct the ad hoc committee to finalize the report for board adoption. Possibly, if we have to hold a board meeting to do it, we may have to have a special meeting in December. If we do that, it will be by telephone, most likely. The board members will be by telephone.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Hearing none?
Well, that's one.
Excuse me?
Saskia.
I was a little quick for you there, sorry.
You should have been faster, Don.
I was on a roll. Okay, go right ahead.
More.
Turn this on. All right, Saskia Kim with the California Nurses Association. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. CNA understands that there are going to need to be a number of statutory and regulatory changes in order to implement the proposed plan, so we just have a few questions about how the process is going to work. First, it's our understanding that under the plan, all CE providers, both new and renewing, will need to go through a review process, and all course content is going to need to be reviewed and approved by the BRN before a CE provider can offer CE credit for that particular course. So according to the draft plan, there are currently 2,761 CE providers, and 1,352 will need to renew in 2019, 1,004 in 2020, and that doesn't include any new CE providers that come online. So we just have concerns about the potential for backlogs and timeframes for review of every course offered by each provider. So what if there are delays in processing and providers cannot offer courses because the courses haven't been approved? Also, what happens if a CE provider wants to offer a course after the provider has received approval, but before it's time to renew, so essentially mid-cycle? Under this new process, that course can't be offered unless it's approved by the BRN, but there's no process set out for the situation in the draft plan. And then similarly, CE courses are often offered at conferences, but they're not necessarily planned 2 years in advance, so how those courses are going to also need approval mid-cycle. Second, it's not clear what will happen if a provider submits 5 courses for review and the NEC or the content evaluator disapproves one of those courses. Will the CE provider still be issued a provider number and the remaining courses be permitted to be offered, or is the entire application disapproved? The description of the process on page 24 under step 6 and page 36 is not clear, and it suggests that a CE provider will be denied a provider number in this instance. I don't think that's the intent, but it should be clarified. And third, CNA would also like to request that the CE provider application be revised on page 30 to reflect that course learning experiences related to the social determinants of health. California's own government is committed to this approach, which recognizes that there are conditions in the environments in which people are born, live, learn, work, and play that affect a wide range of health functioning and quality of life outcomes and risks. And finally, we also have a few technical items. I'll plan to submit a letter laying those out for your consideration. So thank you.
Thank you, Saskia. Dr. Engel, I see you smiling, so I want you want to go ahead and address some of her concerns?
Regarding the, we're looking at improving efficiencies of getting continuing education providers approved, and the question about if the course was, oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, delete.
Oh, thank you, Ann. Oh.
Thank you for those.
You can see
Thank you for those comments.
Yes, she did have the question that she posed, wanted clarification on. So, although it was public comment.
Right, it's just for comment, so it can be adopted into the
Okay,
comments.
so we
for
will
the-
take those into consideration.
So her questions we would take into consideration, but not provide a response to her question.
Thank
We
you.
do understand the
Understand.
questions.
Sir. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, yes, ma'am.
BJ Bartleson, California Hospital Association. I don't have anything near as complicated. I wanted to congratulate Dr. Engel for a well-done report. I understand that she was really the guardian of all of this work. I had questions about the proposed changes to 1456 to the continuing education courses, but now that you've answered, given us time to give responses back, then we can give those responses to you. Again, is it broad enough to, affect things coming in our future that we may not be aware of? I'm a little concerned about medical community versus nursing community, but we will put those comments in record for you. And we thank you for giving us the time to do that.
Thank you.
Yes.
You're just going to be moving this forward. Sorry. I think there needs to be a discussion. No, that's not that. I'm assuming we're going to have a discussion about this after we move this motion forward. Is that correct? Because I think there needs to be a lot more discussion on this particular issue.
Yes, there will be a further discussion. This, for the purpose of today, all we're really doing is putting the draft out there and receiving any comments and questions on it. What I've asked the board to do is to direct the ad hoc committee of the board, Michael and I, to then, with staff, accumulate all of the suggested changes and/or questions and work to put together the final draft that will then be put forth to the board for approval. Does that help?
It does help to a certain extent. Are we having any discussion today over this particular issue?
Oh, the regulations regarding
Yes,
CEs. Yes, it's on the agenda.
yes, but
Next.
it's going to be more extensive.
We'll have more
All right.
discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah. So any other public comment before we try to deal with the motion? One second. Let me find my place.
So you already have a first and a second.
Thank you. So I have a first and a second on the motion. Let's vote.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Donna Gerber, yes?
Melda Seja-Batgortz, yes.
Laura Dela Cruz Reyes Simonia, yes.
Perfect. Okay, moving on. 6.5, and this is what Betty was getting at. So this is an update and possible action regarding changes to the regulatory proposal that the board made last year. Excuse me, this year, but earlier in the year. We made a proposal to modify our CE regulations. And that proposal that we went forward with has been going through the process of approval. It was sitting at DCA Legal for a while. That's been reviewed, and now it's being given back to us with a proposed modification of that proposal. So you have that document. That's what we're going to discuss now.
And some of that proposal change was staff.
Yep.
Correct. Staff and legal have been involved in those discussions. So we do have this being returned to us for another look at the language. Our job here today is to make a decision on whether or not we approve that language. If we do, then it will go back into the regulatory process from the board moving forward. That language is related to the draft plan, but right now, the item we're considering is simply the newly proposed language to us. Does that help clarify?
Thank you, Madam President. That's correct. That's correct.
So let me open that up to public comment and see if there is any. Okay, seeing none. I believe the motion here is to approve the change that's being proposed to us.
I have some issues that I'd like to bring
Then
forward.
now's your time.
I don't think that this particular proposal speaks to the issues that are going on in society that affects everybody's health to one way or another. For instance, the proliferation of firearms, the problem with homelessness that we have. Those are all major problems that affects people's health, and I think somehow or another we have to address those issues as public health nurses, as nurses in general. And I don't see where that fits in anywhere in this proposal. Maybe it does. If I'd be glad to look at it if you'd point it out to me. And I'm not saying we have to say specific things, but the whole issue of public health that's greatly related to issues outside of hospital and health care that we usually think about.
Sure, we can open public comment.
This is BJ again from California Hospital Association. I agree totally, and I couldn't find the words when I was up here earlier. But it sounds to me like these changes are going to go through the regulatory process, so we would have an opportunity to massage wording in a longer process and have more people's input and find the right words to focus on those kind of things. Because we, CHA totally agrees, our members, with that we're probably not inclusive enough, but you don't want to be too direct or,
We don't have, I'm sorry.
yeah, have to kind of deal with the next, 30 years or something. But I think we'll have an opportunity to send these to members and let them look at the language and see if we can come up with something that fits.
Thank you.
Stacy is coming.
You know the section where it talks about courses which deal with self-improvement, and they say that's not acceptable as far as continuing education, yet in a disciplinary proceeding, we hold nurses responsible for stress management. And if you learn how to manage your stress, that is self-improvement. Self-improvement is very broad. Weight loss, stress management, time management, all these things are related to self-improvement, which are in the practice of nursing.
Okay, I see Stacy is here, so if you want to...
Just a brief comment. Good morning, Stacy
Yeah.
Barum, an Assistant Executive Officer. So the regulation proposal that's before you is a minor change to the regulations that doesn't necessarily address the comprehensive plan that the board is proposing. And once the proposed plan is adopted by the board, any legislative or regulatory remedies that the board would need to implement the proposed plan would be sought and brought before the board. So this is a small piece that the board was looking at to modify, but not inclusive of the proposed plan that's before the board.
So that would include self-care, which is currently in the regulation 1456. Courses on self-care, self-improvement, stuff like that, are not considered content for continuing education. And
It should be.
it should be, but in the current...
Especially if we're holding nurses responsible, saying that you need to take these stress management classes as a part of your disciplinary process.
That's for future changes.
So we need to make self-care and self-improvement a part of nursing education.
I do want to clarify something. So we've got the comprehensive plan that we're trying to get to the legislature eventually. Then there's going to be a second year where we will develop, if necessary, regulatory changes, other kinds of changes to implement the plan. Because the way the statutory change that applies to us worked is that it requires the board to first come up with a plan on the CE provider program that we've worked on, Michael. Then we submit that plan, and then we have another year before we report back to the legislature on how we're implementing the plan. So there may be other changes, such as the ones that address issues that you're bringing up,
Yes, correct.
that we will we will be looking at after January 1st of 2019, the pieces that implement and can address the very good recommendations that you're making. The item that we're voting on today, under 6.5, that regulatory change is simply a minor modification in a regulation that we passed back in, I don't know, February, April, March, somewhere in there of the year. So 6.5 is not the entire CE program.
That's correct.
It is the very small change that we proposed to make in the regulation in the beginning of this year. It went off into the regulatory process and is now being redirected back to us for a very minor change in something that we've already adopted.
So what do we need to do?
We need to,
We need to vote to
approve the change that's being suggested to us by both staff and legal. But the items that you're talking about can still be addressed
At a later time.
at a later time.
We're
In-
making changes here. I don't understand why we can't just do it right here. I'm not
So
understanding.
it wasn't part of the February.
I think part of the problem is you don't have in front of you the action that you took in February or March, whenever that was. Apologies for that. But basically, what we're doing here is we're tweaking, in a minor way, something we've already decided to do and need to do.
So it didn't take all of 1456 into account. It added this minor change to it that was previously approved. So as we move forward with the new legislative session and things of that nature, this 1456 will be evaluated to see what additional changes need to be made, such as including social determinants of health.
That's correct.
I see a member of the public here.
Would like to suggest that we look very carefully at the wording. Maybe self-improvement is the problem, but what the issue is that we're talking about really is self-care, which is a huge thing in the literature right now for nursing. My daughter is a nurse at UC Davis, and they're doing an entire initiative at the hospital with all the hospital nurses on self-care. And it would be considered, I think, self-improvement, looking at meditation, self-care activities, some of the things that we talked about. So when you're looking at that wording as you make that change, you may want to describe more specifically what you're talking about self-improvement and how that relates to nursing, and not exclude those activities, because I think it's very critical right now with the stress that nurses are having today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Okay. I don't believe we have a motion yet. So I would move that we approve the change in the regulation that is before the board, and we will continue the process of looking at 1456 later.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Public comment? Nope, they don't want to.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Imelda, yes.
Dela Cruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
Okay. With that, we conclude the Administrative Committee report. Thank you very much for your attention. And we move on to 7.0. I want to ask if the board members want to take a quick break. Okay, we'll take a 10-minute break. We will be back at 10:20. Thank you. Okay, let's go. Everybody please take a seat. If you need a conversation, take it outside. And I do have a gavel. I'm going to have to
Can I
pound.
take over now?
There we go.
Are you kidding me? There's still that much talking?
Okay, we're going to reconvene our meeting, and we are going to move to item 7.0. I'll turn it over to Mr. Jackson, who is the chair of the Education and Licensing Committee.
Good morning. This is the report of the Education Licensing Committee. I'm Michael Jackson, faculty member appointed by the governor. We'll turn it over to the staff and get them to introduce themselves, and she'll present item 7.1.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Carol Vellis. I'm a nursing education consultant with Board of Registered Nursing. Agenda item 7.1A is vote on whether to recommend ratification of minor curriculum revision and acknowledge receipt of program progress reports. According to board policy, nursing education consultants may approve minor curriculum changes that do not significantly alter philosophy, objectives, or content. Approvals must be reported to the Education Licensing Committee and the board. These minor curriculum revisions and progress reports are presented at the August 16, 2018 Education Licensing Committee meetings, and they include minor curriculum revisions such as curriculum changes, work-study programs, preceptor programs, public health nurse certificate programs, progress reports that are not related to continuing approval, and approved nurse practitioner program, adding a category of specialization.
Are there any questions from the board? Seeing no questions for the board, I make a motion that we accept.
I'll second.
I'll abstain from the item Southwestern College Associate's Degree Program.
It's all or one.
So what do I do
Then you
with that one? The whole entire thing?
Unless you want to extract that one out.
For me, right?
Yeah. From the motion.
So then someone else can take that one and approve that one, right?
Somebody could move for it and somebody could,
So I like to extract the Southwestern College out of there. And the remainder of them, I make a motion that we accept.
I'll second.
Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, Michael Jackson, yes?
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Seha Beckwith, yes.
Dela Cruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
Okay, agenda item 7.
Wait. Now the Southwestern College one.
Okay, so I will make a motion to approve the item on Southwestern College Associate Degree Nursing Program.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second.
Woods, yes.
Michael Jackson abstains.
Public comment? Seeing none.
Michael Jackson abstains.
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Seha Beckwith, yes.
Dela Cruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
All right.
Okay, agenda item 7.1B, vote on whether to recommend ratification of minor curriculum revision and acknowledge receipt of program progress reports. According to board policy, nursing education consultants may approve minor curriculum changes that do not significantly alter philosophy, objectives, or content. Approvals must be reported to the Education Licensing Committee and the board. These minor curriculum revisions and progress reports were presented at the October 11th, 2018 Education Licensing Committee. These revisions include curriculum changes, work-study programs, preceptor programs, public health certificate programs, progress reports that are not related to continuing approval, and approved nurse practitioner programs, adding a category of specialization.
I make a motion that we accept item 7.1B.
Second.
Public comment? Seeing none, Michael Jackson votes yes.
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Seha Beckwith, yes.
Dela Cruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 7.2A, vote on whether to approve Education Licensing Committee recommendations. The Education Licensing Committee met on August 16th, 2018, and makes the following recommendations. 7.2.1, continue approval of pre-licensure nursing programs for Concordia University Irvine Accelerated Baccalaureate Degree in Nursing Program, Mount St. Mary's University Los Angeles Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program, Merced College Associate Degree Nursing Program, Shasta College Associate Degree Nursing Program, and Yuba College Associate Degree Nursing Program.
Item 7.2.1, I make a motion that we accept.
Second.
7.2.1.
One.
Seeing no public comment, Michael Jackson votes yes.
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Delacruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
Okay,
Item 7.2.2.
defer continuing approval of pre-licensure nursing program for Brightwood College Associate Degree Nursing Program.
Michael Jackson votes, I make a motion that we accept.
Second.
Public comment. No public comment, Michael Jackson votes yes.
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Delacruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
Moving on to 7.2.3.
Continue approval of advanced practice nursing programs for California State University Los Angeles Nurse Practitioner Program.
Item 7.2.3, I make a motion we accept.
I'll second.
Public comment. No public comment, Michael Jackson yes.
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Delacruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
Item 7.2.4.
Approve major curriculum revision enrollment pattern change for Glendale Career College Associate Degree Nursing Program.
I make a motion that we accept.
Second.
Public comment. Seeing no public comment, Michael Jackson votes yes.
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Delacruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
Item 7.2.5.
Defer major curriculum revision enrollment pattern change for California Baptist University Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program and American Career College Associate Degree Nursing Program.
I make a motion that we accept.
Second.
Public comment. Seeing no public comment, Michael Jackson votes yes.
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Delacruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
Item 7.2.6.
Accept progress report for a pre-licensure nursing program for American University of Health Science Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program, El Camino Compton College Associate Degree Nursing Program, Glendale Career College Associate Degree Nursing Program, and this is a Shepherd University cohort report, and Los Angeles Southwest College Associate Degree Nursing Program.
I make a motion we accept.
Second.
Public comment. No public comment, Michael Jackson yes.
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Delacruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
And finally, 7.2.7, extend initial new program approval, application deadline for Pacific College Associate Degree Nursing Program.
I make a motion that we accept.
Second.
Public comment. No public comment, Michael Jackson yes.
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Delacruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
Item 7.2B.
Vote on whether to approve Education Licensing Committee recommendations. The Education Licensing Committee met on, and this is a correction, October 11th, 2018, and makes the following recommendations. 7.2.1, continue approval of pre-licensure nursing program for Mission College Associate Degree Nursing Program, Unitech College Associate Degree Nursing Program, and San Joaquin Valley College Associate Degree Nursing Program.
I make a motion that we accept.
I second.
Public comment. No public comment, Michael Jackson yes.
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Delacruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
7.2.2, defer continuation of approval of advanced practice nursing program for United States University Advanced Practice Nurse Practitioner Program, Family Nurse Practitioner Program, excuse me.
I make a motion that we accept.
Second.
Any public comment? No public comment, Michael Jackson yes.
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Dela Cruz Reyes Simoleon abstain.
Item 7.2.3.
Approve major curriculum revision for Santa Monica College Associate Degree Nursing Program.
Make a motion that we accept. Public comment? No public comment. Michael Jackson, yes?
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Dela Cruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 7.4. This is the
7.3,
I'm sorry.
our goals and objectives.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry about that. We had lots of changes in the last few weeks. So agenda item 7.3, this is the 2017 to 2019 ELC Goals and Objective Achievement Report. The Education Licensing Committee annually reviews and reports the achievements relative to the ELC goals and objectives. At the end of the first year, a comprehensive report of achievements is submitted. The attached report represents the achievements for the period of July 1, 2017 through June 30th, 2018, relative to the ELC goals and objectives 2017 to 2019, which were board approved on April 5th, 2017. So I'm going to give you a summary of what we've done. Nursing program education activities reported for this period include continuing approval visits are conducted for pre-licensure and advanced practice programs every 5 years. Nursing education consultants Sorry about that, just a second. Nursing education consultants' continuing approval visit reports were reviewed by Education Licensing Committee for 44 pre-licensure programs, 26 ADN programs, 15 baccalaureate programs, and 3 entry-level master's programs, and 7 advanced practice programs with approval status recommendations made to the board. 10 letters of intent for new pre-licensure programs were received, with 1 school, Xavier College, moving to the feasibility phase. 2 new associate degree nursing programs, Gurnick Academy of Medical Arts and Career Care Institute, and 1 new baccalaureate degree program, Vanguard, were also granted initial approval. Brandman University approval was deferred, secondary to lack of pediatric clinical sites. Self-study phase was extended until April 2019 for Brandman. Pacific College is a new program proposal, and they did receive 2 extensions, actually. Education licensee reviewed and made recommendations regarding 15 major curriculum revision proposals. Of those 15 major curriculum revisions, 5 were requesting enrollment pattern changes, which were increases. 1 program, Western Governors University, enrollment increase was denied secondary to displacement of students in 1 clinical site where the increase in students would take place. Teach-out plans and final progress reports were reviewed. Shepherd University Associate Degree Nursing Program that was closed in December of 2017. 2 pre-licensure programs were placed on warning status with intent to close, with 1 remaining so at this time of this report, and that is Los Angeles Southwest College, which is an associate degree nursing program. This status is noted on the BRN website homepage and on the BRN approved programs list per policy of the board to inform consumers. For the annual period, July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2018, the aggregated total of 11,655 NCLEX first-time testers for California is 90.79% as compared to the aggregated national rate of 156,966 first-time testers and a pass rate of 87.80%. BRN staff is working with nursing education consultants and Dr. Morris to analyze clinical capacity. The Nursing Education and Workforce Advisory Committee, also known as NUAC, formerly the Education Issues Work Group, held meetings on October 12, 2017 and February 12, 2018. The focus of these meetings was to review the annual school survey instrument and make edits as needed. Others issues discussed included an overview of clinical displacement and BRN survey, clinical simulation, and the APRN BRN survey and forecasting report, and the BRN intervention and probation programs. Licensing units have implemented business process improvements for California applicants to streamline the application evaluation and processing, enabling processing time for California graduates to be reduced within 2 to 4 weeks of receipt of transcripts. Again, I'll say that, 2 to 4 weeks of receipt of transcripts. A systematic process is being developed to conduct audits every 5 years of the approximately 3,000 continuing education providers approved by the board. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. One of the board members has a question for you.
I do have a question about the every 5-year visits. Now, are these programs that have you've given your approval to, and then you don't see them for 5 years, or you see them in between if they change their curriculum or something, or how does that work?
So these are all assigned schools to nursing education consultants, and these are schools that have been approved through the process of feasibility study and self-study, and then visit and approval by the ELC committee, and then, of course, the board. The nursing education consultants do keep pretty close relationships with the program directors. We do, and we are in constant communication when there's any kind of changes by board regulation, as well as minor and major curriculum revisions. And then on a 5-year cycle, we do a continuing approval visit. If there's any other issues, like student complaints, they're investigated by the nursing education consultant. If we find out by a program that, say, they've lost their program director, and for some reason there's no one else to step into that, we will go out and make a interim visit. So at our discretion, really, we can go out if there's something major going on with the of course, notification to the supervising NECs that a visit may need to occur.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Betty, if you remember, they used to do it every 8 years, and then they had an interim visit, and we changed that a couple years back, but now they do it in 5 years, am I correct?
Yes.
There is 5 years.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carol.
Mm-hmm.
Next agenda item?
Okay, so.
No, we still have to,
Yes, you do.
oh,
So the next agenda item is 7.4, and this is information only NCLEX pass rate update by Katie.
Good morning. My name is Katie Doherty. I'm one of the nursing education consultants in the Sacramento office of the board. I'll apologize in advance. You can hear that the smoke has gotten my throat a bit here, and so please bear with me for the raspiness. Before you, you have a number of documents as part of the NCLEX update. The first set of documents that you have were actually the pass rate update that was anticipated to go to the September board meeting. And so you also have what would be ordinarily a set of documents that would be reported at this meeting. So I'm going to start with the first set of pass rate data, and that is for the period July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2018. And as Carol already reported, we had 11,655 first-time test takers, and California's rate was 90.79%. That was up approximately 1.32% over the previous 12-month rolling period for 16-17. For the United States and its territories for that same period, inclusive of California, there were 156,966 first-time test takers, and the national rate was 87.80%. And again, for this period, for the previous year, what we noticed is the national rate had climbed by 1.59%. Additionally, what we've been doing is reporting out the 12-month rolling total for comparison of similar size boards with similar number of first-time test takers for the 12-month rolling total. And in this particular time frame, using the range of 9,630 to 14,232 first-time test takers, Texas was number one with 12,162 first-time testers and a pass rate of 90.84. Texas was number one. California was number two with 11,655 first-time test takers, and we're just a little bit below Texas with a 90.79%. Again, Texas having a few more first-time testers.
But they're not as large as we. Correct.
But, we're doing darn good, darn well. And number three was New York, and they had 9,630 first-time test takers, and their pass rate for that 12-month rolling total was 86.00%. And number four was Florida, which had the largest number of 14,232, and their pass rate was 73.65%. So, as I indicated, we're doing fine. The next table before you, again, for that same period, July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2018, we're reporting on the quarter of April 1, 18 through 6/30/18. You see California had 1,997 first-time test takers and a pass rate of 88.88% for the quarter. And again, this was up about 1.5% over the last year comparison. For that same quarterly period, comparing ourselves in California to other state board jurisdictions, using the range of first-time test takers of 1,881 through 22,134. Georgia was first, and they had a pass rate of 90.59 for the quarter. California was second with 1,997 and the pass rate of 88.88%, followed by Michigan, who had 2,058 first-time test takers and a pass rate of 88.53. And finally, the fourth was New York with 2,134 and a pass rate of 88.52%. So again, California continues to consistently perform at an exceptionally high level. The next table, which is again reporting for the April through June quarter, is the breakdown of those pass rates by degree type. And as you can see, when you look at that report, we've continued to have a slight increase quarter over quarter. Any questions about this first report? I'm now going to move on to the actual NCLEX pass rate update that would ordinarily be part of the November board meeting. And this is the 12-month rolling total for the period October 1 of 2017 through September 30 of 2018. California had a total of 11,986 first-time pass test takers, and our pass rate, I'm pleased to report, is 91.46%.
Does that still make us number one? Does it? Does it make us number one above
well, when we
Texas and Georgia?
No, it doesn't, but I'll get to it. I'll give you that distribution. So Texas had 12,500, and they're 91.58. So do you see we're neck and neck and neck?
But Katie, given how large we are number one.
We're, as I say, I'm just...
Dr. Morris, you allow us to slip a little bit to Texas.
I'm just reporting the hard data and the facts. In that 12-month rolling period, the United States and the territories collectively, there were a total of 162,038 first-time test takers, and the national rate was 88.56. Again, when compared to the same 12-month rolling total for last year, both California and national were up 1.1% and 1.62%. So to Mr. Jackson's question, the distribution and rolling total, 12-month rolling total for first-time test takers in the range of first-time test takers of 8,244 to 12,500 first-time test takers. Texas was number one with the 12,500 and the 91.58. California was second with 11,986 and 91.46. New York was third with 9,698 and an 87.76 pass rate. And then Ohio was 8,244 and a pass rate of 86.96%. So, as I say, we're consistently right up there neck and neck with Texas. The next table down is for the same time period, October 1, 2017 through September 30, 2018, and we're reporting on the July 1, 18 through September 30, 18 quarter. California had 4,946 first-time test takers and a pass rate of 93.63% for the quarter. So again, we're continued to move forward. Comparatively, for similar size boards with a similar number of test takers, using the range of 3,305 to 4,946, California was number one with our 93.63, followed by Pennsylvania 92.74, New York at 88.38, and then Florida, which was at 77.07. Any questions about that report? And then directly behind that is the July through September distribution of pass rates by degree type. And again, you can see that we've continued to increase our pass rate by somewhere between close to 1% to up to 2.4 in some degree areas. Any questions? Yes.
So I hope I'm looking at the same place you're looking, but the chart I'm looking at is the NCLEX RN pass rates, first-time candidates, comparison of national and California by degree type.
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. I note that the California associate degree rate of passage is 93.8, correct?
So the collective pass rate for all degree types is the 93.8. Then below that is the associate degree, which is the 93.8 as well.
Okay.
And then the BSN ELM is combined, and you can see that it's 93.4%.
Right. So basically, in California, the ADN
is performing.
Rate is 93.8, and the BSN and ELM rate is 93.4.
Right.
Correct?
Right. And some of that has to do with the number of testers, the volume of testers, basically. The slight percent changes that you see really are directly related, inversely related to the number of first-time testers in each of the categories by degree type.
Because the associate degree first tester number is 2,546.
Right.
And the BSN ELM
Right.
The number is 2,397.
Right, right.
Great.
Right.
Thank you.
And these numbers are consistently going up, correct?
Right,
Katie?
right. And again, that range of 0.9 up to 2, around 2, depending on the type, quarter over quarter. So, and that's, I must say, remember, we're at the end of the 3-year test plan cycle, where this particular test plan will be effective through March 31 of 2019. And so you do anticipate, when you're at the end of the 3-year cycle, that there should be that steady increase in your state board jurisdiction and national pass rates when you're into the 3-year cycle of the test plan and the standard, if that makes any sense. Hopefully and the reason for that is what we know is nursing educators continue to do an outstanding job, particularly in California, to be sure that the graduates of all degree type programs are really prepared to take the variety of test type questions that are included in the NCLEX examination. So they're to be commended for that. Excuse me.
I was just wondering, is there a way that as a board we could send a letter to these deans and directors congratulating them? I know you talked about the deans and directors.
Yes. I mean, I can follow up and send them, but I sing their praises all the time.
Okay.
And most of the deans and directors know that I'm very active at reaching out to them. Recently at the deans and directors meeting that took place, I think several weeks ago, we also publicly acknowledged them and thanked them for their hard work. So there's no doubt from any of the deans and directors that we do acknowledge the hard work that they do, and also our clinical partners for their support in what they do.
The other comment, I wanted to really piggyback on something that Dr. Morris really already talked about. I believe that the pass rates that we're enjoying in California are directly related to the outstanding job that the licensing unit has done in terms of processing graduates, making them eligible to be scheduled for NCLEX, so that people are we're not seeing the kinds of delays in testing. And remember, the general recommendation is that graduates of all nursing education programs test within 3 months. The sooner the better is what we know in terms of once they're really determined to be ready, their predictive test scores are such, then the schools are really doing an excellent job of really encouraging the students to test as quickly as possible. And our infrastructure, operations, licensing unit, and administrative team under the leadership of Dr. Morris has done an outstanding job. And I believe that is directly related to the pass rates that we're enjoying. So,
Thank you, Katie. You have tomorrow off.
no, we have an appointment, I think.
No, she doesn't.
You actually have a long list of things that you want to cover with us. The next report that I'm providing is really to share with you the 2019 NCLEX test plan that was officially adopted by the National Council Delegate Assembly in August of 2018. And Dr. Morris and Mr. Jackson, I believe, were the delegates who attended the Delegate Assembly. And so, but behind this, you have the strike-through copy of the 2019 test plan that they have agreed to adopt. You'll note that there are really minor edits and changes, more word changes to this. The strike-through copy indicates they struck through the words that are going to be edited and underline the words that are going to be adopted. And as you can see, it's very minor. There are a few word changes in the intro section, the belief section, and the overview of the health promotion and psychosocial integrity sections, but very, very minor. So what that means to me, having been in the role of the NClex liaison since around 2000, is we've had the same passing standard in place, 0.00 logit, for 6 years. And so what it kind of means to me, my hunch, I'm giving you a hunch here, nothing official, nothing discussed. My hunch is that potentially the passing standard will be raised. The National Council State Board, the National Council Board of Directors will look at the information on the passing standard at their December meeting. And then in January, they'll officially release the adopted new test plan and what they believe the next passing standard will be. I could be surprised and it could be changed, but I did look back historically. They put the logit passing standard system in 1986. And there have been 8 increases over time since that period of time. And there's never been the same passing standard in place longer than the 6 years. And so that's the basis of my hunch. But maybe I'll be surprised, but it may be likely that they will increase the passing standard since there are very minor changes in the actual test plan. And as I indicated, the official copy of the new test plan will be available on the National Council of State Board website in January of 19, along with whatever the news release is relative to the passing standard. Any questions about that?
Yes, I have a question. When do you see this going into effect?
So the new test plan will be effective April 1 of 2019 and will be effective through March 31 of 2022. So the test plan, so there's always a 3-year cycle where there's a practice analysis, then there's the test plan review and revision, and then implementation of the new test plan for that 3-year period of time, along with whatever that passing standard is. And so, as I say, my hunch is, since there are only minor edits and we've had this passing and standard in place, and when I looked back historically what happened with passing standard increases since 1986, that could be the likely change. And that would mean that's a higher bar for graduates, first-time test takers, to pass. And so I just wanted to, because I won't be back until February, and so I wanted to really share some of my impressions with the board, but nothing official at this point in time. Any other questions about that? You also have in your packet, in this particular subsection, the cycle that Ms. Woods talked about in terms of what happens with test plan review and implementation and revision. And that's the very last document in that packet. The next section of information only is to talk about what might happen beyond 2022. And so what National Council of State Boards has done, and it was part of what they really have communicated for some time now, since 16, 17 in particular, they've already started trying to get the word out about what they anticipate the next generation of NClex to be, and they're calling that the next generation NCLEX RN research that's currently going on. And what this represents is some significant changes in possible NCLEX examinations for 2022 and beyond. Again, it depends on how long it takes the National Council of State Boards to go through the 8 steps of their research project that you have a pictorial of in your packet. One of the things that they have really made a commitment to is to really ensure that the NCLEX exam remains comprehensive, that it reflects current RN nursing practice, that it remains psychometrically sound and valid and reliable measurement, and this is the key for the research that's going on, that it really continues to be a valid and reliable measurement of entry-level registered nursing competence. So toward that end, and all the work that they've done to date, they really have developed a new model, a clinical judgment model, which really reflects an information processing model. So they're really drilling down in terms of really beginning to really try to measure in a very specific way all of the thinking, all of the reasoning, all of the decision making that goes into the decisions that entry-level nurses make for safe, competent practice. So toward that end, they have developed and are in the process. Back in 17, at one of the board meetings, I had reported to you the research project where they're having candidates who have some of their 6 hours left for the examination. They can voluntarily take additional items that are not scored, but they are really working toward better and better measurements of clinical reasoning and clinical decision making, with the graduate being expected to really gather and process and make decisions about what are the very appropriate first, second, third steps for the delivery of care. And even more importantly, in this next generation, that the graduate will be able to really discern whether the nursing interventions and care that's being delivered are they getting the outcome that they need to get from the interventions that have been provided, and do they need to do something else, and to determine what those next steps are. So the scenarios, the unfolding scenarios might be, what would you expect 2 hours after treatment? What would you expect 4 hours after treatment? So you can see the sophistication of problem-solving, decision-making, and prioritization of care that is potentially going to be measured in the future as a result of the research. To be sure it's psychometrically sound will be at a much more detailed, specific level. And so all of the language on that AIS that describes those different types of prototype questions that are being tested at this time, the usability studies, the scoring that's going on, is all in process. And so National Council is very clear that there's no definitive timeline yet. But I think they're working toward, because the NCLEX exams occur in a 3-year cycle, most suggest that it probably would be, after 2022 or in the 22 through 25 cycle. any questions about that? I included a quarterly report to give you some further information as well.
I do have a question.
Yes, please.
These questions are going to be on the present NCLEX exam starting?
No,
They're not.
these are in the research phase. So there already are innovative test items in the NCLEX exam. What they're talking about for the next generation is what they call an enhancement of the existing questions and responses that are available. So the 19 through 22 will remain fairly the same. That's why I say I think the difference that we might see for the 19 through 22 cycle is the increase in the passing standard. While they're in the process of developing these much more specific measurement, psychometrically sound measurement tools for the next generation, 22 or sometime beyond.
So at that time, these questions will be at the end of the NCLEX and people can answer them if they choose to gather the information?
No. So thank you, Betty. I really appreciate the question. So they're testing some of these items for the future, basically, and they're gathering the data, they're doing the research, they're doing the comparison, because as they really prepare to really try to more accurately and more specifically measure clinical reasoning and judgment down the road, 2022 and beyond, they will need different kinds of questions. And so there are a number of first-time candidates or candidates who are currently taking the NCLEX test. Mm-hmm. And so if they have time left out of their 6 hours that is allotted for testing, they will be invited to voluntarily answer some of these research questions so that really the National Council really has tested these. But there will be other layers. If you look at the pictorial newsletter, you'll see all of the different, there are 8 phases to the actual process, that the research they're going through to make sure whatever the next generation NCLEX testing is going to be, that they've done everything they need to do to make sure that they have a psychometrically sound test moving forward that keeps pace with what's being required of registered nurses on entry into practice. As we know, the patients we see are often sicker, and so it's requiring, obviously, a fairly sophisticated level of clinical reasoning and decision-making on the part of a new grad. And what they've decided is that there are probably better ways to measure than the currently existing. And as you can see, this has been in process since 2015, if you read. And so they're doing the necessary due diligence before they make any changes in the existing test plan or the innovative items. But they're talking about enhancing the types of test items and response items for the future. And what they're doing very wisely and prudently so is helping all of the nursing education programs gear up for that potential change in the future, so that nursing education programs will continue to really demonstrate that they are able to really prepare the graduates for success, the same level of success that is currently enjoyed on NCLEX, but also, more importantly, that they're prepared for safe entry into practice.
Thank you.
Yes.
And that kind of goes with my question. So the notification to faculty that comes to the NECs, to the National Councils, and Deans and Director meetings, how does the faculty get that information?
So Dr. Morris has already really talked about this a bit in the summits. He talked about it a little bit at the annual school survey, and we've actually had a conversation where Dr. Morris is hopefully able to get the team from National Council out here to California.
Our students are prepared accordingly.
So we've also had some conversation with the predictive test folks, leadership, and we are really encouraging our program directors to be talking with their predictive test vendors and representatives about how those products are going to mirror the next generation of NCLEX testing that could be done, so that, as Dr. Morris has indicated, that faculty have time to really digest. This is the first depiction of the clinical judgment model that National Council is basing their research on. And so if you look at that model, you can see that really the model is describing the very complex higher order cognitive information processing and the layers involved in clinical decision making. And so potentially the test and the test items and the response items will reflect what's being depicted here on the model, the schematic that you have in your packet. Is that making sense to everybody?
Thank you, Katie.
Yes, I have a couple more, just FYI. You have a couple of news releases in your packet, just letting you know that National Council has extended the exam delivery agreement with Pearson VUE through 2024, and the detail of that is there for you. The next press release that you were handed this morning is really was distributed November 6th after we did our packet submission, and this news release was just announcing that National Council has launched the NCLEX practice exam that is available. They're offering 125 question exams, practice exams that mirror the computer adaptive testing that would be. These new practice exams are actually using actual or retired NCLEX items. And again, what individuals would get, graduates would get from paying the $150 is they would have a tutorial to demonstrate the question types. There would be a score report of the number of questions they answer correctly. They need to take the 2 exams within 45 days of purchase. But it's one more effort, I think, on the part of National Council to ensure graduates of pre-licensed or nursing education programs can be successful on the NCLEX exam on first attempt.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Jackson.
We still have one more item here, is
Right.
licensing. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Christina Sprigg. I'm the Chief of Licensing and Administrative Services, and I'll be providing the licensing report today. So the licensing program is currently processing initial review of California and U.S. exam and endorsement applicants that we received within the month of October. We are preparing for our fall graduates, and thus far we have received applications from students of over approximately 30 schools, so we have just over 1,000 applications thus far. We anticipate we will receive over 4,000 applications for the fall graduation season. We do continue to utilize the cloud drive to receive our electronic transcripts for our California nursing programs. And additionally, we have been successful with implementing receipt of electronic transcripts for out-of-state programs through a third-party vendor electronic transcript process. With the implementation of several Breeze improvements, application streamlining, and online features such as online application status checks, we expect to see a further decrease in the application processing times. The board launched the Green Project in September of 2017. We have had a number of projects that we have implemented since that time, including recent projects which are scanning of documents and transcripts from out-of-state U.S. schools. So any incoming paper documents that we are currently receiving at the board are being converted to digital copies and are being stored in our virtual suspense. Our evaluators, when they are processing applications and evaluating transcripts and documents, they will have those documents electronically, and they're no longer working with physical paper. So that is happening as they come through the door to our licensing unit, so that the evaluators are working with a completely electronic record and not electronic and paper. All of our online applicants are now required to input phone numbers and email addresses. This new requirement will not allow the applicant to move forward in the online application process until this information is provided. This is another step moving us forward into our Green Project to become more online and be able to provide email notifications to our licensees. This requirement on the initial application will have lasting effects as it will funnel over to the licensee record, and once they have become licensed, and this will assist the board in the future with potential renewal notifications via email. So another step that we are moving towards going paperless. Additional enhancements in process of implementation for our back office, our board staff within Breeze, include elimination of creating paper file folders for most of our incoming applications. So with the implementation of the online applications and the electronic transcript process, our internal BRN Breeze work queues, the need for actual file folders will no longer be necessary to monitor most incoming applications. Of course, our international applications will continue to be housed in paper applications because we do require some of those documents to be paper coming directly from the international schools. So the licensing unit is currently fully staffed in all of our areas. The additional staff have helped to implement the current business process changes to improve processing times. Our licensing staff have also been busy working on special cleanup projects within the file room and within Breeze. These projects are necessary as our business processes change and are updated and enhancements are implemented into Breeze. So I have attended the COADN, the Deans and Directors meeting on October 24th, and gave a presentation regarding our licensure process. The presentation outlined licensing updates that were made to the 2018 Director's Handbook, the process for submitting electronic transcripts, the process on how to apply for online for examination applicants, new deficiency statements viewable on Breeze, and our processing timeframes. Joseph Pacheco and Shannon Johnson provided an overview on the reporting of prior convictions, discipline, and the enforcement process as well. The presentation was well received by the nursing deans and directors, and the feedback has been positive so far regarding the processing of California applicants, as all are very happy with the electronic transcript submission process and how quickly the applications are processed after receipt of those transcripts. Thus far, we are about 99% of our California nursing programs are submitting their transcripts electronically. We have one program that was an outlier, and we have been in communication with that program, and they will be submitting electronic transcripts this fall semester, this fall graduation season, which will put us at 100% of California programs receiving submitting electronic transcripts to the board.
Christina, can you get that school on my desk ASAP?
Absolutely.
Okay, we want them to be, for the students to benefit.
Yes.
Just like the other schools are. So it's imperative that we have 100%
Yes.
other schools.
And we have been in communication with them, and we've answered some questions that they have, and they will be submitting electronic transcripts this go-round. So any questions regarding the licensing program?
I do have one question. So, well, it's maybe two questions. Obviously, the Breeze system is very important to this whole online acceptance of transcripts and to do the licensing process. So are there any issues that still need to be worked out relative to the Breeze system?
So within Breeze, as our business processes improve and as we make changes to the processes in-house, we will always have changes that will need to be made within Breeze. We do submit tickets. There are still outstanding tickets. We prioritize those based on the changes that are happening in the back office and what will affect the public view of Breeze, so for our applicants. So anytime we have a change within a business process that we think would be an improvement on the public side of Breeze, so our applicants actually applying, we will prioritize those higher so that we could get those implemented, and we could then determine the lasting effects of the processing time. So we really take that into consideration. So yes, there are still, I wouldn't call them issues within Breeze. I would call them additional enhancements that we are making to the system to better improve our processes.
And so is there anything that we need to do in order to make that more responsive or more timely? Are we able to make the changes that we need in a timely fashion at this point?
The department has releases within the Breeze project that are scheduled out over, I believe it's over the next year. So we're aware of when those releases are coming. So we communicate on a consistent basis with the department related to any changes that are needed within the system. Now, unfortunately, we do have to share those releases throughout the year with all of the other boards that are on Breeze as well. But the department does make a very valiant effort to try to get as many of our changes within the system for all of the boards. So there is some give and take there. It does take a little bit of time, but we are able to try to get the major changes that we need in the system within a timely fashion.
And then just finally, I'm assuming, given that we're becoming more and more paperless, therefore we can't retain information physically, I'm assuming that there is a plan B for what happens if there is a power outage or a system shutdown or something unexpected.
The department has a plan. All of our systems are backed up, so the department does have a plan in place to deal with any type of outages, et cetera.
Great.
I would also like to commend the supervisors of the callback center for the building up the esprit de corps amongst the staff with the programs that they've implemented. I think that's really important to make sure that they are calls are being answered.
Thank you.
Customer service training.
And I do have an update about the call center as well still. So moving on to the Consumer Assistance Call Center. So the board's call center supports a population of over 435,000 licensees and over 35,000 applicants. The call center has 12 permanent and 7 limited term positions, and currently we have 3 permanent positions that are vacant and currently being interviewed for. The call center supervisors, Andrea Tillman and Christina Lane, have created and conducted a new training program for call center staff. The training is a 3-week-long program which consisted of classroom style and hands-on training on the BRIES system, overviews of all of the board's units, the handling of licensee questions related to renewals, name, address changes, employer verifications, and applicant questions regarding the licensure application process and licensure requirements for exam, endorsement, and advanced practice certifications. The training also focused on customer service skills and provided staff with tips on handling difficult callers, verifying the identity of a caller, and ensuring staff are providing detailed information. Throughout the training program, staff had the opportunity to test what they learned through trivia games designed specifically for call center staff training. The supervisors work daily with staff to ensure they are provided with the most up-to-date information regarding process changes, processing times, and new laws and regulations that affect the board. Additional training happens throughout the month with focused training modules that give the staff the opportunity to work through subject-specific areas to gain additional knowledge regarding the subject so that they can provide even better customer service. The call center supervisors have done a wonderful job bringing the staff together, even incorporating staff morale games into their daily job functions. These team-building activities include prizes such as picking their break and lunchtime, which I know may not sound like a lot, but for a state employee, it is. That staff can, win by answering questions correctly and advancing forward throughout their trivia game. The Licensing Administration and Licensee Services Management team, in conjunction with Solid Training and Planning Solutions, recently conducted an employee engagement survey with staff. The management team wanted to open the lines of communication with staff and allow them the opportunity to provide their feedback to the management team. Solid compiled the survey results and discussed the identified areas of staff concern at group meetings. Management was not present at those meetings as we wanted staff to feel comfortable discussing the survey results and addressing any concerns they had. The areas of concern and solution suggestions were compiled and discussed with the management team after the individual meetings with staff, and the management team is currently working to implement some suggested changes regarding communication, staff training and development. So I, along with my management team, have also implemented quarterly all-staff meetings for the licensing administration and licensing services units. We conducted our first quarterly meeting in July of 2018 and are working on scheduling our next meeting for early December 2018. At the first quarterly meeting, the management team identified staff nominations for each of the assigned units to be awarded a Shining Star Award. This award was given to staff members who have gone above and beyond in not only completing their assigned duties, but also in providing assistance to their coworkers, always being willing to learn new processes, providing suggestions for improvement at the board, and for providing all-around excellent customer service. The management prepared written statements describing why the employees received the awards, and the employees were presented with the Shining Star certificates, which they are proudly displaying in their work areas. And, of course, a special little treat for them. For our next quarterly meeting, staff will be the ones that will be making the nominations of their coworkers, and they have been asked to provide written statements as to why this person is being nominated for the awards. So that information was provided regarding the nomination process to them about a week ago, and thus far we've already received several nominations, which we will be presenting at our December quarterly meeting as well. So currently, the licensing administration call centers and renewals units have four permanent vacant positions due to staff movement and promotions. So since June of 2018, we've been very, very busy. We have hired 22 new staff across all of these units. And below is, I'm not going to go into detail in all of these, but below is the chart of our current vacancies as well as our new hires and promotions over the last few months. So any questions regarding that portion of my report?
I do have a question.
Yes.
Are the phone people on the phone all the time, or do they have another assignment where they can get off the phone? Because that's long day to be on the phone?
They are assigned on the phones all day long. If we excuse me, if we have time, if throughout the day, there are times where there are not calls coming in, then they are assigned other work that they can work on. Because of the number of calls we have in, all of the staff that we have assigned to work in the call center, we have to have them assigned to work on the phone so that we are able to take all of the incoming calls to the board. So it is a long day for them, and
Christina,
they're very busy.
To piggyback on what Betty's comment is, I know she's getting at the workload and sometimes complexity and stress could be just being on the phone. So I definitely want to commend you, the leadership, and the call center. That is a tough job to have, folks. Very tough job.
Almost like being a triage nurse in an emergency department.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Jackson.
Have you worked in the ER, Dr. Morris?
You nurses are tough when you call in.
So what we're doing, again, the staff engagement, the change in the climate within the organization is so important, not only for recruitment, but retention as well. And I heard you mention some of the activities that they're doing in the call center. And throughout the entire board, I must say, walking through the board, I can tell the culture is shifting within there. And that speaks volumes to the leadership, the managers and supervisor, and the staff engaging. So applause to you, publicly, you and the staff and what you do. And if they're looking at the board meeting, I do want to say, thank you for what you're doing. I can tell the difference. I've received several emails from many of our community partners who've acknowledged that they see the change, and we're going to continue to make improvements so that we're not only good, but we are the best. So thank you.
Thank you. And then the last item on my report are the licensing statistics for fiscal year 2018-19. Currently, for exam endorsement, our repeat reapply applicants and advanced practice certifications, we've received thus far 10,890 applications, and then the statistics for the 4 prior fiscal years are also available on that chart. So any additional questions? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This concludes the portion of the education licensing.
Okay, thank you. So we will move on now to 8.0, which is the report of the Legislative Committee. And Kay Weinkamp, our staff person, will advise us. This is, we're not making any new decisions or taking any new positions. This is the end of the legislative year, obviously, so this is just an information committee report. Thank you, Kay.
Thank you, Donna. Good morning. I'm Kay Weinkamp. I'm one of the nursing education consultants, and I'm the legislative liaison for this committee. And I know when you look at the agenda and you see all those bills, your heart kind of drops, but it truly is the end of the session. So the materials you have in your packet, especially the tables, are basically a summary of what has been the board's activities for the past 2 years and all that legislation that's been introduced, considered, and that which has made its way to the governor's office has either been chaptered and becomes law or it's vetoed. I think I've mentioned before how there's never been a session where there have been so many bills for board consideration. The new members of the Assembly and Senate have had their orientation meeting this month, I believe, and they will reconvene in early January. So our agendas for the committee and for the board meeting will start out very slowly with bills introduced. But today's session is basically to say that the session has concluded and presented to you.
Okay. On the items in the packet, anybody have any questions or comments, issues? Any comments from the public on board positions on legislation for the last 2 years? Seeing none. Dr. Morris, I think you wanted to.
Yes, I do want to also say publicly, as the board continues to expand, we continue to, as we heard her say, improve our business processes, including hiring of those persons that we need to help usher the board along. I'm very hopeful within 2 weeks that we will also add a chief of legislation to the board as well. So that person will work with Kay. They will also be very active in the legislative process. Over in the Capitol, we expect him to be present there as well. So hopefully within a couple of weeks, a chief of legislation will be on board with the BRN.
Thank you. I know that this board has been waiting for that particular piece of news for at least a couple of years that I'm aware of, and probably before. So appreciate that. And Kay, thank you very much, by the way, for guiding us through the 2017-18 legislative session. You're right. There was just a lot of information and a lot of bills to assess, to analyze, and for the board to be provided information so that we could take a position where appropriate. And I just want to personally really thank you and respect your work and your help with the board on this issue.
Thank you so much for your kind comments.
You're welcome. Okay, so we don't need a motion, I don't believe. No, we don't need a motion. Thank you. 9.0 is the report of the Intervention Discipline Committee. I'll sort of help shepherd this if staff come forward. I do want to say that sadly, our chairperson for this committee, Barbara Yaroslavsky, is not here today because she's quite ill, and I just now understand from one of our board members that she's been hospitalized. So we are going to keep our fingers crossed for a good outcome for her health, but I'll shepherd the committee report through on her behalf. So, Joe?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. My name is Joseph Pacheco. I'm the Chief of Enforcement responsible for complaint intake and investigation programs. And I will start with my report. My report this term is a mixture of two committee reports since the board did not meet at our last scheduled session. So for staffing and complaint intake, at the writing of this report, we had one office technician position open. We have two since the writing of the report. Those positions, we're working on filling those right away, hopefully within the month. For the fiscal year, for last fiscal year, ending June 30th, the board received a grand total of 9,733 complaints. It was the largest number of enforcement incoming complaints in the board's history. And our current complaint intake workload as of October 15th, I have some numbers here. It shows our pending numbers. I don't want to go into too much detail unless the board has questions. They mirror numbers from my past reports. Any questions on complaint intake? I'll move on. For the investigation programs, I continue weekly meetings between myself and the Division of Investigation Management. We discuss workload issues, and we also conduct second-level triage on case referrals, on investigation referrals. The focus of those referrals are on practice-related complaints where there has been some possible patient harm or an allegation of a patient death. We triage those to determine which unit can most effectively handle that workload and review the CPI guidelines. It's actually working well. It's reducing the number of cases going back and forth between us and D of I. So that process is working quite well. I've also included some investigation workload statistics. That second-level triage is because it's changing very slightly the movement of cases. The percentage of cases going to D of I versus we keep at BRN has changed slightly. So it's about a 34 to 66% split, with BRN investigations keeping the majority. The active investigation caseloads, DOI had 422 active cases, BRN had 420, and so the active workload really is a 50-50 split. And our cumulative closures for the year, the Division of this is beginning July 1 of the fiscal year. D of I has closed 136. I believe this is a typo for BRN. I don't believe it's 738. I'm sure it's not. I don't know how that happened. It's somewhere lower than that.
Okay.
And then I have our average investigation times in here as well. As of October 30th, there's 68 D of I investigation cases and 27 BRN investigation cases over 1 year old. Any questions there?
No, go ahead.
Okay, and I'll summarize some of the committee requested statistics that I've presented at the last 2 committee meetings. Starting on page 3, I have a 4-year complaint workload analysis, and it shows the workload increase over the last 4 fiscal years. You can see that overall the workload has increased 45%. That's with, since 2014, no additional staff being added to the complaint intake unit.
Can I just interrupt real quickly? So if anybody is listening, that's the reason why we have the request in on our BCP to increase staff. Thank you.
Yes. Yep. I'll just move. If there's questions, please chime in. I'm going to go through these very quickly. I want to appreciate your time. I have 3-year historical applicant workload numbers. So the workload that has grown the most in complaint intake is our incoming applicant workload. That's applicants with a reportable either criminal or licensure discipline history. That workload has increased 68% over the last 4 fiscal years. So for 3 years, total exam endorsement applications received was about 98,000 applications in those 3 years. A little over 9,000, or a little over 9% of them have reportable enforcement issues. 439 initial denials happened, so a little under 5% of those result in a denial, an initial denial. And then only 75%-ish of those people actually appeal those denials, and it's a small number. The outcomes are on page 4 for these folks. The majority of them who receive disciplinary actions receive probation upon licensure. 22% receive a public reproval. A very small amount of licenses are granted without any conditions. There was only 6 of them. And then we had 36 outright denials. So I just wanted to highlight those. Applicants have the right to appeal the board of the initial determination, and the appeals are referred to the Attorney General. Statements of issues are served upon the applicant, and the applicant may exercise their right to a hearing, and appeals may also be resolved through stipulated settlement, and all final application discipline is reviewed and approved by the board, as you know. Staff also produced a characteristics numbers regarding 3-year summary of disciplinary actions. At the request of the committee, we looked at all disciplinary actions issued between July 2015 through June 2018, and the tables that follow are just a summary of the information for that request. 3-year summary of disciplinary actions. There were 1,551 citations, 241 public reprovals, 530 probationers were put on probation. The board had 433 surrenders, 642 revocations. The data identified 34 that were deemed other, and then a total number of licensees with any action in the 3 years was 3,431. We looked at the age of the RN at the time of the incident that resulted in discipline, and it was a surprising number. It went against what we expected. So for all the actions above, the average age of the RN at the time of the incident that sparked the complaint was 47 years old. When citations were removed, the number did not change, so it remained at 47-year-olds for all types of disciplinary actions.
So the average age of the average RN in California is what?
It's about 47.
Is it similar? I don't know.
What's the average age of the average RN in California?
40s.
So
the
then that
40s.
number is nothing significant then. If it's the average age of the average RN in California is 40s, mid-40s, that number is not really significant.
Well, I think the question came up because the thought was that possibly a lot of the disciplinary cases were the younger nurses coming out of school.
But it's not.
So that answers the question to some of the board members here who had that generational question of people in their mid-40s, which I'm the only one here on the board in their mid-40s.
And that experience speaks for itself.
Correction, Mr. Jackson, I think you have me by a few years.
Dr. Morris, you're not on the board.
Okay.
He's correct.
As usual.
I'm going to change the subject.
Yes, please do.
All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
About nurses coming, they've gone through a program, and then they want to sit for the NCLEX, and something is found out about them that it's denied.
Yes.
Are there specific things, specific felonies that would keep one from becoming an RN?
I'm going to say no. There aren't specific felonies. The factors that go into a denial are very complex. No two criminal actions are the same.
And we decide each case individually.
True. The board does have final say on every one of these actions. Your egregious violent crimes, of course, there's a higher scrutiny of those to determine whether or not the person's fit to obtain a license. How much time has passed is a major factor. The applicant's rehabilitative efforts since the time of the incident. Just the fact that they've changed their lives and gone to nursing school is a major factor in their lives. I'll say no, but a lot of people with some serious felony crimes, many, and the numbers show it, most of those people do come in, if they're approved, they're placed on probation at the beginning of their licensure.
Well, some of those don't even get into nursing programs because hospitals won't accept them. So if the hospitals won't accept them for clinical, they can't do the program.
Point made.
The vast majority of people who are applying that have a criminal issue in their past do receive their licenses. But they tend to have to go through a process where the board historically wants to have that person reviewed, or they want some public notice regarding their past history before we give them their license.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The last page of my report, it goes along with the age characteristics. The average number of years that a licensee had their license at the time of the incident that resulted in discipline was 14 years. The committee and just anecdotally, the thought was that it was the younger nurses right out of school. The statistics don't show that. They show that they're mid-career RNs on average that have disciplinary issues. And I have a breakdown of the number of years. So a quarter of them did have their licenses 5 years or less. Another almost quarter were between 6 and 10 years, and the remainder of them were 11 or more years that they'd had their license before disciplinary action, or an issue that resulted in disciplinary action. Lastly, and it's not in my report, I'd like to publicly commend one of my staff. Her name is Patrice Quinn. She's an SSA in our complaint intake unit. She is a native of the city of Paradise, and the majority of her family still lives there. Many of her immediate family members have they've all lost their homes and their businesses, and she's currently housing 30 people on her property that have been displaced by the Camp Fire up in Paradise, and I just want to acknowledge her efforts. And I'm not even sure if she's at work today. She's probably at home making sure 30 people are cared for up there, but I want to commend her, and my thoughts go out to her and her family.
Well, just a reminder that these things affect real people that we know. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, Shannon.
Hi, Shannon Johnson, Chief over Discipline, Probation, and Intervention, and I will start with Agenda Item 9.2 and the Probation Unit. Since the last report, we currently have all of our, still one outstanding position left for an Associate Government Program Analyst in AGPA. We also have one Office Technician position, and we are currently getting those filled. So they should be filled by the end of the month, I'm hoping.
Excellent.
We currently have 92 cases per monitor. We've had quite a bit of decrease, and I'll show you in the stats. It's been due to one of our process changes. We have our new NEC in place, Deborah Lewis, and since she has come on board, we have been able to decrease our employment approvals and employment modifications for probationers down to about 1.5 to 2 weeks. So that's huge for us. It was over 4 weeks at one point, I believe 4 to 6 weeks. One item that, because we did not have the last board meeting, one project that was conducted by the probation manager is she looked into an audit of the reinstatements that were granted, that were given probation, and the period was from March 2016 to about 3 months ago. It says current, but it was as of about 3 months ago. And we reviewed RNs that were placed on probation with conditions, and the result was approximately 105 of the cases. So there were 105 cases that were granted reinstatement of their license with probation granted, and of those, we broke down what had occurred with those nurses. So 40 of those had a violation of probation, 3 of them were revoked, 8 of them ended up surrendering their license again, 2 of them were found not safe to practice by a result of a mental or physical exam, 6 we had pending subsequent actions on. So a total of 59, which is about 56% of the reinstatements that were granted, ended up back at the Attorney General's office for further prosecution or had their licenses either surrendered or revoked. Current year for the probation monitor, so active in-state probationers, we currently have 907. Of those, 510 are chemically dependent probationers. We have 393 that are out of state, considered told probationers. And we have about 89 cases pending at the Attorney General's office for a total of about 1,300 probationers. And you'll notice there's a drop in probationers since we changed our process for our petitioners coming before the board and the ones that were compliant, allowing them to go through a stipulated process and the board doing a mail vote. We've been able to drop our probationers by about 7%. So that reduced the caseload per monitor a little bit. So it alleviates it just a little bit more. We're still at 92 per monitor. However, if we do end up getting some further positions in probation, I do feel that we'll be at an adequate level to monitor in a proactive way instead of reactive.
Excellent.
Any questions on probation?
Thank you for the report. The report that you just gave for the violations, maybe somewhere down the road, I would like to know the same number for the stipulations. Oftentimes, we get before us stipulations for people who were placed on probation and we give them extensions. If it's possible for you to let us know how many of those actually come back to us and how many times.
Right. So I can do a report on all subsequents after we have a disciplinary order. And is it just for probation that you would like to see?
Well, it's the stipulations that we...
We'll look at all the stipulations. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll move on to cite and fine. So as of November 2nd, we had issued 220 fingerprint citations, 33 we had received payments in full, 152 had appeal conferences, and 2 are currently at the Attorney General's office appealing in a formal appeal. So current fiscal year, we've done 160 citations have been issued. We've ordered a little over 118,000 in fines, and we've received 67,000 of that.
I have a question. What do you
Yes.
mean they're appealing it? They don't want to have the fingerprints done?
When we issue a citation, they have a process, a due process. They can request an informal citation conference, which is over the phone, and we can either decide to uphold, dismiss, or modify that citation. If they're not in agreement with that, they also have the opportunity to appeal to a formal appeal, and that would go to the Attorney General's office before an administrative law judge, and the AG's office would represent us in those cases. They can skip the informal and go straight to the formal appeal if they would like, but they still have both options.
What are they appealing?
They're appealing the citation.
The fines?
Yes.
Okay, but they know they have to have it done.
Well, they have their due process. If they do not file an appeal, then the citation is upheld. Until a citation is paid, they will not be able to renew their license.
I have a question
Yes.
regarding some of those citations. Those are some for certain accusations or minor, like a DUI lower than whatever level. What are the categories?
Petty thefts, failure to update their address of record.
I was looking more like a criminal, like it was something that was filed against them and you filed a complaint, but no. It just,
The petty thefts, we get the rap sheets on those, and some of them do go to cite and fine. Low-level convictions that maybe don't rise to the level of formal discipline.
like wet.
Wet and reckless, dry reckless, some of those do end up as a citation.
And a certain below, right? The blood level, a certain.
Well, we take everything into, like Joe had mentioned, every case is on its own merit, so we have to take every circumstance of that particular case to determine the outcome.
I was just thinking of the first-time offenders.
A lot of the first-time offenders, yes.
Okay, thank you.
The default decisions, so current fiscal year, or as you know, so as of January 1st, we no longer prepare the default decisions. It now is prepared by the Attorney General's office, and Barbara had asked me previously to start reporting on that. So the defaults, current year to date, there's been 17 that have been processed, and, the average days of the cases that have been processed has been 17 days. So last year it was 51, current fiscal year is 17. However, I think that number is going to increase. We have a lot pending right now, and once they become final, then those will be calculated into this number. Currently, cases pending as of the end of October, we had 856 cases at the Attorney General's office. And when I say cases, that's RNs at the Attorney General's office. Some RNs have multiple cases. So we have about a little over 1,200 at the Attorney General's office right now. 117 are pending board vote. 86 final decisions were being processed. 138 were pending a hearing before an ALJ. Over 2 years old, there were 67 cases, and 1 to 2 year olds, there was 169 cases. Current year to date, we've referred over 388 cases. We've did 33 petitions to revoke, served 272 pleadings. Our EO assigned 104 surrenders. We've withdrew 2 statement of issues, and we've adopted 398 decisions. The statistics for probation and the breakout for the advanced practice certificates is attached. Are there any questions on those units before I move on to 9.3? No? Okay, so I'll move on to 9.3. Which is the intervention program. The intervention program hosted the annual intervention liaison committee on September 5th at the Hilton Garden in Sacramento. And Barbara Yaroslavsky was present along with Dr. Morris, Stacy Barum, and myself, Joe Pacheco, and Don Walker, as well as Virginia Matthews, the Maximus project manager. There were about 30 attendees, and the ILC committee meeting is held to provide a forum to discuss the policies regarding the intervention program. We also hosted the Nurse Support Group Facilitator Forum on September 6th, the next day at the Hilton. Again, the same attendees were there, and this forum is conducted to develop greater communication between the facilitators, the Nurse Support Group facilitators, and the board staff and Maximus. On October 18th, the intervention program hosted the fourth in a series of the 5 mental health ad hoc committee meetings. They worked to review all current practices and discuss different approaches. The 5th and final meeting is tentatively scheduled for January of 2019. We approved, intervention evaluation, there are currently 4 physician member vacancies. So Oakland IEC 13, San Jose IEC 7, Los Angeles IEC 3, Fresno IEC 5, and there are 6 public member vacancies: San Jose IEC 7, Orange County IEC 4, Fresno IEC 5, Burbank IEC 8, Fairfield IEC 11, and Fairfield IEC 13. There are 3 RN member vacancies: Culver City IEC 3, Burbank IEC 8, and Oakland IEC 13. Attached to 9.3 is the intervention statistics. Any questions on that so far? Okay, 9.3.1, it was approved by committee to move to the board the appointments and reappointments. So we have Carol Stanford, public member, Oakland, IEC number 13, Kenya Smith, RN member, Culver City, IEC number 3, Dr. Robert Dutal, public member, Irvine, IEC number 4, and we have 1 reappointment, Kwame Okori, an RN member in Riverside, IEC number 9, and I would ask for the vote to approve these appointments and reappointments.
I make a motion that we accept the appointments.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Seeing none.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Elizabeth Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Seha Badgwitz, yes.
Dela Cruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
And that concludes my reports.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
I have a question
Oh, sorry.
really quick. I'm sorry about this, concerning this vote.
Oh.
Carol Stanford, is that the Stanford that used to work on our board?
Yes, Carol Stanford was our intervention manager for years, and she is now coming back as an IEC member for the board.
How many of the board members know her? Do you know her? Yes, because we know her. Because she worked on the board in the manager
Oh,
spot.
you want to abstain from the vote?
That's why I'm asking her, how many of the board members remember her or know her?
I don't. Are they required to abstain from the vote if they just know her?
Yeah, if you just.
Well, we worked with her. She worked on the board.
I know.
Yeah.
So, and then I guess at that point.
She was
you
board
feel like
staff.
you can treat her like any other member of the public.
I just want to do things legally.
I understand. But if you have no business with
So
her and nothing.
I like to amend my motion, and somebody will else have to make it because I will have to abstain.
Okay, so can we have another motion to accept the appointment recommendations?
I'll make a motion that we accept the appointment recommendations.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, a different maker of the motion and a second. So now we'll vote.
Abstain.
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Seha Badgwitz, yes.
Dela Cruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are we able to go ahead, board members?
Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe it's at 5 minutes.
okay. Yes, let's take a 5-minute break. We will be back at 12:10, please. Please, so if everybody could please take their seats. We are at agenda item 10, and Elizabeth Woods is going to be leading this part of the agenda.
Elizabeth Woods, I'm chair of the Nursing Practice Committee, and Jeanette is with us today, and we will start the meeting. A lot of it is informational, so pay attention.
Is it good afternoon yet?
Yes, it is.
It is.
Good afternoon. My name's Jeanette Wackerly. I'm the Supervising Nursing Education Consultant from Sacramento and also the liaison to the Practice Committee. The agenda item before you is possibility of an appointment of Hillary Reyes. She's a CNM. She is currently on the Nurse Midwifery Committee and is volunteering to be on the Advanced Practice Committee. So the Practice Committee is requesting the appointment of Hillary Reyes also to the Advanced Practice Committee. This is a voluntary asking to be appointed. And we have one member now that's a midwife, and we need 2 members.
I make a recommendation that we appoint Hillary Reyes. Any
I have,
public comment?
No relation,
yes,
by
I
the way.
actually have interviewed her, and I think she's is a very good candidate, and that will make our committee complete. So I will second it.
We already did.
Okay. We'll call for the vote, please.
Michael Jackson, yes?
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Seha Bedquet, yes.
Dela Cruz Reyes Simoleon, yes.
Okay, so item 10.2, and this has to do with terms of committees. And right now, we have the Nurse Midwife Advisory Committee, and there's a question over how long this appointment should be for. It was a suggestion that there be 2-year terms and being able to re-up 4 times. That would be 8 years. It's a bit long, I think, for a committee. So I think we need some discussion about this.
There. Just for some clarity, the first appointment of the Nurse Midwifery Committee was for a 2-year term, with the understanding that the committee could ask for another 2-year term, in which the sitting committee right now, and their names are B.J. Snell, Naomi Stoddard is an MD, Lynn Lee is a CNM, and Karen Rosalie is a public member. So currently, they are serving in their 2nd-year term. So this would be, the end would be a total of 4 years. What they're requesting is that they be appointed for 4 2-year terms, or a completion of 8 years of work on the Nurse Midwifery Committee. Did I make that plain?
Question. So instead of having 4-year terms, they would have a total of 8.
Correct.
That seems a little long.
It seems a little long to me also. I think it should be 4 years if they want 2-year terms or a 4-year term. But I'm sorry. 2 2-year terms or 1 4-year term, but it takes you a while to get used to the role. But I think 8 years is a bit long. I'd like to see some turnover and get other people in there with experience and get the experience of being on the committee. So
Do we need any action, or we don't have to take any action?
Yes,
We don't
possible
have to-
action would be very helpful. In
Yeah, we
other
need to
words,
take
this group of members to that committee on their 2nd 2-year term. So they will be, at the end of this term, a total of 4 years. They're asking for 4 2-year terms, and I don't know whether you want that or not. So that's what I would ask for the action to be. What would be your choice?
well, I don't want to see everybody going out at once, but I think some of them now have been staggered because I believe we got a new member because someone had to drop off.
No. Well, yes, somebody moved.
Right.
So Hillary Reyes is a nurse midwife who was appointed to the committee, and she's in her first 2-year term.
Mm-hmm.
Well, could we take an action that the terms will be 4 years for each person, but they will be staggered, and then the staff and the committee can figure out the staggering process based on where people currently are. Would that make sense?
Wouldn't make sense to me.
Okay, I would
I
move
just
that.
want to add one thing, please.
Okay.
The committee chair, who's B.J. Snell, I think would want another term, And so the question is, she would continue her term with another round of 2 years, and then we could stagger the other members? Would that be appropriate?
Well, she has 2 years left, is that correct?
She has this 2-year term,
Right.
yes.
Right.
So I guess we'll draw from a hat for what the term appointments would be. I'm just thinking that we need 1 or 2 to stay longer than the last 2 years. They've already been on for 2 years, and we have another 2-year term.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what you're saying is that everybody who's there now has been there 2 years?
Correct.
If we set the term,
Pardon?
except Reyes.
Except Reyes, she's brand new for a
Right.
2, she's being appointed for a 2-year term. So if you appoint her today, and you did, then her term starts today, or whatever date we want to put on there.
But everybody else?
Everybody else would term out at the end of this 2
At the
years.
same time.
Mhm. Unless you make an appointment or change for me to follow. Okay.
They can decide how they want to stagger it. I don't know that
Right.
we have to do that for them.
And I have a question.
You could direct staff to come back with a more definitive plan for you to vote on.
Is there any reason we need to take, we could take a position today that it's going to be a 4-year term, but the actual staggering, we could work on that and bring that back to the board. Would that meet
So
your
the
needs?
committee have some
Internal
input
process.
into it. Sorry?
Does the board need to work and vote on the staggering, or is that more of an internal business process?
So
That I
the
can
way
look
it
at.
could work is if they want to extend the term, the board has to vote on that. If they want to do the staggering, the board should also vote on that. But it sounds like there's no emergency for that to be done today, so they can
No.
come back with a more definitive plan.
I'd like to recommendation that we put this agenda item off until the committee has had a chance to look at it. This hasn't even gone before the committee. It just got brought directly to the board.
It was at the practice committee.
When? When? Oh, I wasn't here.
There you go.
So what did
No,
they
I-
decide then at that committee?
They wanted a four 2-year terms. That was what the request was for. And
No,
this,
our committee, the nursing practice committee in August, what was the decision then?
We were going to bring it to the board. We were bringing it forward to the board. That was the only decision that was made at that time.
I would move that we vote to establish the terms as 4 years, and that we request that staff and the committee chair, if necessary, work on the staggering of the current members in order to meet the term that we are choosing.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Discussion. I
Yes.
just want for clarity. They can run for another 4-year term, they serve a 4-year term, and then they can apply to be on it again?
No.
No.
What we're voting on today is that the full term is 4 years.
Right.
Maximum term,
Right.
4 years.
Okay,
The current people have served 2.
right. So they got 2 more to go.
They have 2 more to go. We're just trying to figure out how to stagger them so that they don't all expire simultaneously, except for the one person we're
Right.
appointing today.
Right, but my question was, can they then, after they've done their 4 years, can they then apply to be selected for another 4 years? Or is total limitation 4 years?
It's a total limitation
Okay.
at this point. Obviously, a future board, future whatever could change
Yeah,
the
okay.
decision if they so choose.
Just
But
wanted
for
to
now,
clarify.
for now, it's a
Okay.
4-year
4-year.
term, 4-year limit. So that's the
So-
motion.
So the 3 that are there will have to decide how they want to stagger it, because one is already not going to have to be there, because we know she came in later. Okay.
Okay, so the motion, Chair, you want to conduct the vote?
The vote, please.
Public comment.
Any public comment, please? Not seeing any, can we call a vote, please? Starting with Michael.
Michael Jackson, yes.
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Imelda Seja Bedgood's yes.
De La Cruz Reyes Simoian, yes.
Okay. 10.3, discussion and possible action on SB 1109, approved by the governor on September 22nd, 2018, on controlled substances, Schedule 2.
Basically, this change in the law requires furnishing nurse practitioners and nurse midwives to have an additional content in their course for Schedule 2. That's putting it simply. Nurse practitioners have not included addiction or the problems with addiction along with their Schedule 2 courses, and this new law requires that they do that. The difference for the nurse midwives who are also furnishing and have Schedule 2 is to add addiction and neonatal abstinence syndrome to the content of the course. And they're adding it to the CE course, but it will also mean at the schools where these people are being educated, we'll add the addiction and for nurse practitioners, and we'll add the neonatal abstinence and addiction to the midwifery course. I have talked to the midwives already, and so I know, I talked to their leadership a couple of weeks ago, and I did have an email from the new policy person for the midwifery group. Tomorrow morning, I'll be talking to the advanced practice group, so I assume that without any ado, that they will add this course content to their Schedule 2 requirement, which is in California, is a separate requirement from their advanced pharmacology course. That's kind of what you have to understand. The Schedule 2 was added after 3 through 5. And so it added an additional requirement of continuing education regarding Schedule 2 in order to get their furnishing number for Schedule 2. The same for the midwives, although their length of time for their course is a bit less than the nurse practitioner. So it adds an additional course requirement to Schedule 2 that has to do with addiction, or for the children, neonatal abstinence syndrome, which would be for the midwives.
So if this is in law, what are we supposed to do about it? I mean, we're accepting it because that's what the law is.
To give me the direction to go ahead and notify the organizations to add this, in that we have an advisory statement out there about Schedule 2, because it's confusing for nurses who come in from out of state, that there is an additional requirement. They may come in with DEA numbers for schedules, but we do require them to meet our educational requirement, which is in addition probably to what they've already done. So it would add addiction also.
So this is just asking that it be included on the website, on the BRN website?
And
Is that-
notice to
Is that my
the-
understanding?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know that we have to vote on that.
Just give her direction.
All right. You need to do it.
It's business, it's internal business practice, so.
It's fine.
We will notice them accordingly.
And you know, one of the things you need to know that really perplexes the public, our public, is they're coming in as nurse practitioners with Schedule 2, and I want to add to the information on the website is that the DEA is looking at their furnishing number to see that the board has issued them the privilege of Schedule 2. So it will be Schedule 2 and addiction for the nurse practitioners. It will be Schedule 2 for the nurse midwives and the neonatal abstinence syndrome. That will be what will appear on the furnishing sheet, so to speak.
And this will only be if they're, not all nurse practitioners are doing scheduled drugs. So it's only for the ones who are going to be doing scheduled
Only
drugs.
for the purpose of the DEA
Right.
and for the purpose of being able to prescribe, yes.
Okay.
There are, I don't know the number of nurse practitioners who do not have Schedule 2 privileges, but I think because it's a requirement for onboarding in many institutions and clinics that they have it, I think that probably out there are many more than we know about. Okay, thank you.
All right, moving along to 10.4. Discussion and possible action, AB 1790. And Jeanette?
Thank you.
Talk about that, please.
I'm a fan of everybody knowing about valley fever. And so this is a public health initiative, I guess I will call it at this point, in which I want the board to publicize that this is an alert now for a public health to recognize what the symptoms of valley fever are and to seek treatment. I think that's the biggest thing. And not to disqualify somebody thinks they have the flu and they really have valley fever. So I'm asking the board to approve that we put this on the board's website as what's new, and also that this pay attention to this problem in California.
I make a motion that this information is updated on the board's website.
I'll second that.
Public comment? Michael Jackson, yes.
Woods, yes.
Gerber, yes.
Ceja Beckwith, yes.
Dela Cruz Reyes Simonia, yes.
Is that a yes?
Thank you.
10.5, discussion and possible action, AB 2086, approved by the governor on September 6th. It's in addition to health and safety codes related to controlled substances.
I want the board's okay to publish this again on our website. It has not been working well for the nurse practitioners and midwives who have scheduled drug privileges to be able to identify what patients that they have already prescribed Schedule IIs for or the scheduled drugs. So this is just that they can query cures and receive a list of those patients that they have prescribed for. So it's a public information item, actually, but our public really looks at our website to see what they can do and what they can't do. So for cures, since the cures is, it is new in a sense, not old for practitioners who have Schedule II for a long time, but now they know that there are certain instances in which the number and kind of Schedule II is limited. And if they want to know what their population has received, they can go in the cures system and look at it. Does that make sense to you?
The other part of this is that they can be fined if they don't use it.
Yes, cures is a requirement. But this is a helpful thing, I think, for practicing nurses, that they can go in and see who are on their list. There also is a way to stop the shopping of going around looking for schedules from other prescribers. So I'm requesting that that be put on the website also.
Can we just give direction to go on the
Yeah,
website?
we'll work together
Okay.
on our internal business processes to ensure that we're better notifying those midwives.
No, it's not just midwives.
And nurse practitioners,
Advanced
sorry.
practice.
APR.
Anybody with a Schedule II privilege would be notified.
Okay. Thanks,
Okay.
Jeanette.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I don't think there's anything else that we need to discuss unless there's something from the audience that needs to be addressed or somebody
Any public
from
comment?
the board.
Okay, then, we are ready to adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much for attending. We hope that getting you out a little bit early means that you'll take advantage of the wonderful weather down here in Monterey. Again, thank you. Thanks to staff, thanks to Dr. Morris, thanks to our attorney, Ann. Thanks to board members.
Yeah, we'll see you next year, right? 2019. All right, thank you.
The meeting adjourned.
The meeting